He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the loudest, but while the giants kept falling, he was still there, lurking, year after year, competition after competition, defeating legends, outlasting entire generations. And when no one expected it, he conquered the Mr. Olympia. This is the story of Dexter Jackson, the man they called the Blade. They called him that because he came on stage sharp with spectacular muscle separation, striated and cut muscles. He was sculpted. It looked as if he had been carved with a blade. Dexter Jackson was born in 1969 in Jacksonville, Florida. He didn't seem destined to dominate bodybuilding. He wasn't particularly tall, he didn't have the monstrous genetics of some of his rivals. But he had something just as dangerous: determination and consistency. He made his debut in the 90s, and little by little he climbed the ranks until he entered the professional elite. For years, he was one of the most dangerous men in the IFBB. He won 29 professional competitions, more than anyone else in the history of men's bodybuilding worldwide. An extraordinary number. He competed in more than 85 shows. Just imagine what it's like to prepare to compete 85 times. Most bodybuilders step on stage about 20 or 30 times throughout their competitive lives. Dexter Jackson tripled that, and he proved that he didn't compete just to compete, he competed to win. Among those 29 professional victories, he won 4 Grand Prix, but he stood out especially at the Arnold Classic, where he won 5 times. Again, a historic record. He is the bodybuilder who has won the most Arnolds. In total, he was in the top 2 8 times at the Arnold. But that's only taking into account Ohio, the important one, the big one. But if we take into account the Arnold Europe and the one in Australia that existed back then, he would have a total of 9 Arnold Classic titles. Over the years, he kept accumulating victories. But nothing satisfied them. He still hadn't reached the top. Something was still missing, the biggest stage of all. The 2008 Mr. Olympia. In 2008, everything changes. Jay Cutler comes in vulnerable. Dexter Jackson shows up with one of the best physiques of his life. Dry, shredded, separated. He came in full and dense. Well-proportioned, aesthetic. Looking spectacular. A very good symmetry. Huge arms, pumped legs, a great back. He arrived in perfect condition. And what seemed unthinkable happened. Dexter Jackson defeated Jay Cutler and won the Mr. Olympia in 2008. Thus defeating a dominant champion who had already won 2 Olympias.
Dexter had been defeated by Jacksonville, Florida.
Because of that night, Jay Cutler didn't manage to win 5 Mr. Olympia titles, and the 4 he did win weren't consecutive. It was a major obstacle in Jay Cutler's path, one he would never forget. But things didn't end there, and Jay Cutler was thirsty for revenge until the Olympia in 2009 came around. But before that, let's take a closer look at his physique. What made Dexter Jackson special? He had an almost perfect physique. He had a small waist, slim, very detailed, with good abs and obliques. His arms were very round, they were very full. His quadriceps were big and defined. His legs were the size of his waist. His back was wide and dense, it's considered one of the best backs. His chest and shoulders were full, they were defined and well separated. You could perfectly distinguish the clavicular head of the pectoral separating from the other fibers. He had a harmonious, well-proportioned, quite aesthetic physique with an impressive structure. He didn't stand out because of extreme size, but because of how complete he was. It was the kind of physique that looked better the more you saw it. Even so, he wasn't without weak points. His calves weren't the best, nor the biggest, nor did they have the best insertion. Likewise, even though he had good arms, there was a slight asymmetry between his left and right arm. Even so, he was close to perfection. We definitely need to mention his measurements, as he wasn't a tall bodybuilder. He was about 5 feet 5 inches, but he was perfectly proportioned. His stage weight ranged between 98 and 100 kilos, and his off-season weight was around 107. His chest measured up to 136 centimeters, his waist 76 with arms up to 55 centimeters and legs up to 75. As I always say, these measurements could vary. But let's go back to Mr. Olympia. What happened after 2008? What happened in 2009? Jay Cutler, thirsty for revenge, came back with an improved historic version and managed to reclaim the title, something that has happened very few times in history, but Dexter was still among the elite. Some people think that version was even better than the one in 2008. But bodybuilding was changing. More mass, more size, more visual impact, and very powerful names were coming in like Phil Heath, Kai Green, Big Ramy. Even so, Dexter didn't disappear. He didn't fade away. He still had many years ahead of him, since Dexter Jackson has had legendary longevity. He was the definition of perseverance. He competed for more than 30 years from 1990 to 2020. He participated in 20 Mr. Olympia, something no one else can say. Dexter surpassed all limits. And pay attention to this, because in 2020 he retired at 51 years old, having won the Tampa Pro at 49, being second at the Arnold at 50, and placing fourth at the 2019 Olympia at 49 years old. Not to mention the excellent placements he was achieving at the Olympia, at the Arnold, in competitions, all the way until the end of his competitive career. And an interesting fact, in 2018 he competed at the Arnold Australia with a torn bicep. Another incredible fact is that he won his first Arnold in 2005 and his last one in 2015, 10 years later. He didn't spend those 30 years he competed just barely hanging on, no. He was making a big impact in competitive bodybuilding, crushing the dreams of more than one person. You see, he even went on to win 29 professional shows. In a sport that destroys bodies and souls, he survived it all. He went through the Ronnie Coleman era, the Jay Cutler era, the Phil Heath era. While the giants were retiring, Dexter kept coming back to the next show again and again. Today he's 56 years old, super fit, and still training. In fact, I'm surprised at how well he's doing. But let's let him rest, because with everything he's done, I think that's enough already. Dexter Jackson wasn't the most dominant, but he was the most persevering. He didn't need to be the biggest to beat giants. Some dominate an era, others survive through several. And that's why the blade remains eternal. I think this bodybuilder has been one of the most incredible I've featured in this old school bodybuilder series. There are plenty more episodes, and I'll keep bringing 1 or 2 each month. If you liked the video, show your support and comment on who you want to see next. That's all. This is RSYT Culturismo signing off. See you in the next video.